Howdy, howdy, howdy. It's Rodfather 916. I just had a birthday a week or so ago, and I'm reaching another decade, another milestone. I didn't think I'd make it this far because my father died when I was very young. He died when I was 6, and he was like 42, 43 years old. And he was of normal weight. So, and being a obese man, I went, well, listen, I won't make it as long as he did. Well, quite a bit longer than both our parents. The wonderful thing about aging is you're freer. If you have a grandparent, one of the things you may cherish about that grandparent or an older aunt or uncle or cousin is they just tell the truth. They don't sugarcoat it. They just tell it the way they see it. Because sugarcoating it just takes too long. It just takes too long. I don't want to hurt their feelings, and I don't want them mad at me. I don't care. Be mad at me. I'm not going to be purposely rude to you. I love you. But at the same time, I'm going to tell you the truth. Don't ask my opinion because you're going to get it raw. Listen, you need to grow up. Your heart is broken. I feel bad for you, but here's the good news. If you want to, you'll survive. Well, I've heard from people going, you know, I just needed some empathy, someone to care for, and I went, well, that's not me. I do care. But to go on forever, it's just not working. And so I think this is where you cherish your grandparents and aunts and uncles, because they're going to tell you to it straight. When they're probably in their 60s, it's going to be raw. There's not going to be any lube to what they have to say. They're going to tell you how it is. And the other thing about aging is you realize that sweating the small stuff is overrated. My life is over because your life is not over. You still hear your breathing. And maybe you are too focused on. If I could do things better, I would have handled my money better as a younger person. I see people now and their focus is based on what some star has. Instead of investing $5,000, they'll take $5,000 to buy a watch, or $5,000 and spend it on rims for a car. And yet you have no place to stay, you have no home, you have no money saved up for a home because that's not a priority. You don't think about it then. Doesn't mean you're doing wrong, but you're not thinking about it. Those people who've come through the Depression, who are no longer here, who actually went without and was hungry, when they survived the Depression, it changed their mindset, how they handled money. And I didn't go through a depression, but I'm at the place where I used to go to fast food all the time. And all of a sudden, one day I went, God, $20 at a fast food place where something I'm not really enjoying. I could actually go to the store, buy myself a steak or a piece of chicken, something I really enjoy with all the fixings for $20. And I actually have that shit at home. So you think about that, I tend to have more money in my pocket these days. Not that I'm wealthy. You rob me, you're going to get heartache. But, I'll carry a $20 bill forever in my wallet because it can wait. But there's a downside of getting older. I think you become afraid of mortality, but it starts about 50 years old. And you realize you've been here half a century, and you realize that you may not be here much longer. Some people resort to church in their 50s. They become spiritual. Some of us, I think this is where I fall in, is I appreciate all the small things. Like I slow down to admire the flowers. I slow down to look in somebody's eye and share a laugh with them. And I like this version of the older Rodfather. It's not hurried. It's not as stressed. The downside of being older is friendships. I'll never forget a 67's interview with Lena Horne. A lot of people don't remember Lena Horne, but Tom Bradley, the brother who was a black reporter on on 60 Minutes, interviewed her. And I think she was in her 80s at the time, and he was saying how great it is for you to live this long. And she goes, not so great. Because, you lose a lot of people you cared about. They're not necessarily coming with you. And I can relate to that. In 2020, I lost my brother, a dear, dear friend, and 4 other friends in a span of 5 months. So that's the downside of dying. The good side of it, and this is to people having issues with their fathers and their mothers and fathers and how they were raised. This is the time they may be ready to talk to you. If you can get past all your issues and anger and hurt, this may be the time that you can have a conversation with your parent or grandparent. But you have to approach them as you would another adult. Because if you come at them like a child, they'll lock up and they won't say anything. Like, how come you didn't do this? Why did you do this? No, have an adult and say, why do you think you were that way? Why do you think this happened? How did you grow up? Because you can learn a lot from your parents. They weren't always parents, They weren't always adults. Your kids don't realize that sometimes, that they were actually kids at one point. But that's a time where you could actually go to your parents and ask them, what is like for you growing up? What did you go through? Did you have boyfriends, girlfriends? Did you date a lot? How'd your family feel about it? All of these things will give you insight to who they are. But these are my thoughts for the day. And I'm going to end here. If you have any questions, I'd like to know what you think. Meanwhile, this is Rodfather, very blessed. Wishing everybody love, joy, peace, and happiness. I say that, I mean it. Get over it, because life is short. There's no calendar. God has not handed us a calendar to see how long we're going to be here, so you should enjoy today. Old people talking. Meanwhile, if you're watching this, I sure appreciate if you hit the like button. And if you've seen some of my other videos, which range from whatever's happening in the media or hot topics to sometimes light politics, not too much. But I appreciate that. And if you're following the video, I'd love to hit you subscribe. And more importantly, I'd like to hear what you think. What do you have to say? Most people who are on this, every once in a while, people will have a differing opinion. The only thing I can say is be respectful to each other. It's all right to have an opinion, but that opinion is exclusively yours, and a person doesn't have to necessarily agree with you. Meanwhile, this is Rodfather. Thanks for watching. I'm out of here. Bye.